This afternoon. It's been a pretty interesting and exciting day for us, and I thought we'd get something out of the way right off the bat. I know it's probably a question on everybody's mind concerning Coach Ulbrich. And let me just tell you what has transpired. Dan Quinn, who is a very good friend of mine, actually hired him into the National Football League when I was the defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, was introduced yesterday as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Dan also has a relationship with Jeff Ulbrich, much like I do, in that we both coach Jeff and have become very close to him. Last night, Dan, out of courtesy, called me and asked if he could have permission to talk to Jeff. Well, he doesn't need permission. In the NFL, you have to have written permission. In our world, you don't. But it was a courtesy from a friend to a friend. Of course, I told him, absolutely not, stay away. But being the competitor that Dan is, he reached out to Brick at some point, either last night or early this morning, and made him an offer to be his linebacker coach. Jeff has assured me that he has not come to a conclusion yet. He is contemplating whether or not he wants to do that. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to keep him here because I think he's an outstanding coach. I will say this about Jeff, is that he's been very forthright with the recruits that have signed today in communicating where he stands and communicating really just the things that I just told you. He's also reached out to the parents, and so I think Jeff has handled this very, very well. But I'm going to fight like crazy to keep that sucker, and it's going to be a heck of a battle because Dan Quinn is he's a fighter. So anyway, on to the good stuff. It was a really productive day for us here, up and down and like a roller coaster at times, and it started this morning at 3:15 a.m. at the IHOP in Encino, California, with a staff meeting. So I started with a stack of buttermilk pancakes at 3:15 a.m. in Encino, and here we are now, 13 hours later, and it's been a wild, wild ride. You know, recruiting is really interesting. The coaches get a lot of the credit and a lot of the blame. Credit when things go well and blame when they don't. And I think the blame is something that we should shoulder. I think the credit is something that needs to be shared. It takes a whole group of really dedicated people to land the type of class that we landed. And you know, it starts with our student body. When our recruits come on this campus, sure, it's a beautiful campus, but the people on this campus also make it beautiful. And you know, when you're walking students around and you're showing them this campus and people have a smile on their face or determination in their walk because they're here for a purpose, that really rubs off on recruits and their families. And so our student body has a great deal to do with this. Our faculty, and George is here, right here, people probably don't know this, but they donate a whole lot of their time to helping us recruit. George comes every Friday and has lunch with the recruits and their families, and he talks about not just the Anderson School, but he just talks about the UCLA experience and his experience. And George is just one of many staff members and faculty members that do that, and so we're really grateful for that. We've got an amazing support staff that all touch the recruits and their parents at one time or another. Our athletic trainers and our medical staff, our video department, and Ken Norris and the content that he's able to put out, our equipment staff that gets out to the Rose Bowl every Saturday morning and sets up. You know, if you went out there on a Saturday morning, you know, you'd think we were Oregon, as many different uniform combinations as we could put out for these kids. You know, our travel department, Audrey works just non-stop. We're calling her from all over the country at all times of the day, you know, trying to get flights changed, and her dedication is really a big part of what we're doing here. Our sports information department, compliance, and Matt Elliott. You know, I walked in this morning and Matt Elliott was sitting in my office, you know, ready to go. Josh in development. You know, we have a tremendous group of donors. With the way that recruiting is structured now, for the head coach, you really only get about 3 weeks after the bowl game to go out and see a large number of kids, and we couldn't do it without the support of our donors who help us with travel. And Josh organizes all of that, and it just wouldn't be possible for us to reach the kids that we reach without that commitment. And then academic services, and Dr. Christina and Tim and Mike and their staff, they come in on Saturdays, they come in on Sundays. At halftime of games at the Rose Bowl, They spend time with our recruits and our families talking about our amazing academic support system. And oftentimes, when a family's making a decision, they point right at that and they say, you know, I know that they're going to be coached up, but I also know that they're going to get a tremendous education and tremendous support. And so that's just another tremendous component of what we have to sell here at UCLA. We got a great football staff. You know, two guys that always get overlooked are Pat Girardi, who's our Director of Player Personnel, and Matt Bernstein. And those guys are tireless workers, and it's year-round, and it's thankless, and they never, you know, they don't get to go out and see players. It's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, but it's things that we wouldn't be able to do without Courtney and player development. We have a whole host of interns and volunteers and graduate assistants that work their tails off. And then the coaches, you know, the coaches, first of all, it's the coaches' families. You know, recruiting is incredibly time-consuming, and every coach will tell you that. And we know that, and we willingly take on that task because we love to do it. But without a supportive wife and family or supportive girlfriend at home to kind of keep things together and sane, it would be really tough for us to spend as much time as we do out around the country traveling. And our coaches do an amazing job. Our players now, listen, our players are like an army, you know. NCAA rules prohibit us from asking our players to contact recruits. But our players take it upon themselves to make these young men and their families feel very welcome when they're on campus. They take it upon themselves to stay in touch with these recruits after they leave campus. And they are all so dedicated to having the type of team that we all envision. And a number of the recruits this year told us, and their families told us, that one of the big differences for them being here at UCLA and at other places was the sense of team that they felt amongst our current team. At some places there might be a sense of, you know, hey, you're a threat to me. I'm going to kind of recruit you, but I don't know if I want you here. And here, our players just embrace our recruits and our families, and their families, and I think it makes a great deal. You know, recruiting is the ultimate collaborative effort for us. And oftentimes, I think that you see a coach of a particular position get a lot of credit for that position. But it's never that way. It's never one person. It's never one staff member. When we go recruit, we recruit as a staff. And I'm not talking about the things I was talking about. I'm talking about the actual coaching staff. Adrian Clem touches defensive backs, and Demetrius Martin touches offensive linemen, and defensive coaches touch offensive coaches. And, you know, it's all about building relationships, and everybody's going to connect in a different way to those people that we're recruiting. So I just want people to understand how collaborative it is, and we're incredibly lucky to have a staff that is able to put their egos aside, because oftentimes they're judged by who they bring in at their position or in their area. We don't necessarily do it that way. We don't necessarily do it by position or by area. We do it more by personality, and it's very collaborative, and I think it has worked. What I'm excited about this year is this class exemplifies, I think, better than any of the other three classes, the previous three classes, exactly what we want to be here at UCLA in terms of the type of student athlete we want to bring on campus to play football. We have a profile. We call it a Bruin filter. And it's a series of intangibles that we look for in each player that we bring to campus. And it goes well beyond height, weight, speed, ability to catch a football or throw a football or block or tackle. It's the intangibles that we think are going to help them be successful and help us be successful. And what I'm really proud of is this year we held as true to our profile as I've ever been involved with, and that includes in the NFL and drafts. And because of that, I feel really good about the young people that we're bringing onto our squad. I think we filled needs. I think we added a tremendous amount of talent to the offensive side of the ball. You know, depending on what stock you put in rankings, or you know, what recruiting service you look at, you know, as we stand here right now, we have the #1 average star rating in the United States of America, the #1 quarterback, the #1 running back, the #1 tight end, the #1 offensive guard, and the #1 offensive line class in America. that's pretty impressive. You know, where's Edward? Right. Yeah, maybe maybe you don't have it that way. Hey, but you know, defensively, we did well. You know, our linebacking group is right now the number 4 linebacking group, the number 6 defensive back group. If there was a position where I'm sure every Bruin fan that's watching this is concerned, it's the defensive line, and I have those same concerns. We missed on some young men that we really wanted. That's how recruiting goes. You get some guys you don't think you're going to get, you fight for them, you get them, and then there's others that you don't get. And we have a plan, though. We have a plan in place, and you know, we'll make it work. We've got, you know, as everybody knows, we've got 8 defensive starters coming back and 10 offensive starters. So it's not like we're just devoid of depth, but you know, that's something that we'll certainly have to address in the future. Talking specifically about each group, I think today kind of lost in the shuffle was Josh Rosen. You know, it was such an exciting day because there were these new names and these new commitments. And Josh, unfortunately, in terms of the hype, but fortunately for us, was kind of a little bit under the radar. But you can't take away from the fact that this class includes the number 1 ranked quarterback and the rival's number 1 ranked football player in the United States of America. And so we're very happy with that. And Josh has been instrumental in helping this class. He's been a great resource for the players that have come on campus because he's been living the college life for 3 weeks. And so he can tell them firsthand what it's like. We signed 2 tremendous running backs, probably a little bit different in their style, but both guys that we think fit our system. Soso Jamabo, who's the number 1 ranked running back in the United States of America, out of Texas, is just a tremendous talent. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's physical. He can run between the tackles, he can get the edge, he can take it home. And one of the things that we like about him is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's also a very good blocker. And then from up north in Northern California, Bolo run from one of the great names when you're talking about a running back. This young man's about 5'11", 5'11 and a half. He'll tell you he's 6 feet, and he'll get there. He's about 212 right now. He has speed, he runs physical, and he has what Coach Paul Malo calls he has contact balance, which means he can take a hit and continue to move towards the other team's goal line. So we're really excited about those 2 guys. A big fight, boy, the fight to the finish was our tight end, Chris Clark, out of Avon in Connecticut. It's a prep school between us and Michigan, and it was a battle to the end. And this guy is tremendously talented. He gives us something that we don't have, and we haven't had since Joe Fourier, and something that we're very desperately looking for, and that's a big, athletic tight end that is very versatile, a guy that can go in line and block the power. He can get the reach block on the outside linebacker. He can get to the second level and cut off an inside linebacker. He's a guy that can split out and give teams matchup problems in space. And he's a guy that we're really excited about, you know, finding great ways to utilize him. He also brings a tremendous amount of energy and competitiveness to this class. 2 wide receivers that we signed with the potential for some of these defensive backs to maybe be wide receivers. We're pretty deep at that position, but we brought in Steven Johnson, the 3rd. I got a chance to see him play basketball last week, and I've seen him play football, but I hadn't seen him play basketball in person. I think sometimes when you watch a kid play basketball, it's a true measure of his athleticism and the way he moved. When he was moving backwards, I was with Coach Yarbs, and I said, he's a DB, and Coach Meat was on one side, Yarbs on the other. And when he was moving forward, I'd say to Yarbs, he's a receiver, you know. He's playing defense. Meat, he's a DB. He's a receiver. You know, I don't know what he is for us right now, but I know this. He's a great kid. He's a tremendous student. He's a tremendous athlete, and we're excited to have him. And then Cordell brought us. And, you know, the story about Cordell is always going to be about his dad. And that's something that he's going to have to deal with his entire life. But I want to bring the focus to Cordell. I first got a chance to meet Cordell when he was 15 years old out here on the IM field. Coach Yarbs was coaching him up in a drill, and he says, hey Jim, you got to come and see this kid. He's 15 years old. He's a 9th grader, but man, he's a heck of an athlete. And I walked over, and I see this kid, this good-looking young man, put together, you know, athletic-looking build, very coachable. I watched him interact with Yarbs, very, very coachable. I liked the way he ran routes. I liked the way he competed. And, you know, I surprised myself, and I was new to this game, by offering a 15-year-old. And I remember going and telling Shannon, I go, you can't believe what I just did. I offered a 15-year-old kid a scholarship to UCLA. And we kind of talked about him, and the next day I find out that he's Snoop's son. And then I said, you can't believe what I really did. A 15-year-old who's Snoop's son, a scholarship. But the point is that Cordell stands on his own. And I love his potential. I love his upside. He's almost 6'3". He's almost 200 pounds. He's a tremendous young man. I've liked him for a long, long time, and I'm really glad that he's in this class. The #1 O-line class in the country is coming into UCLA in the fall, and this is a heck of a group now. One of our objectives as a football team is to get bigger up front, particularly on the offensive line, and not sloppy, but bigger, more mass. And we added mass in this class. Zach Bateman, who's been on campus now, a junior college guy, is 6'7", 3, whatever, big, massive guy, very athletic. Josh Waraboko from Oklahoma comes in as an offensive guard or center, big, athletic, physical presence. Tavito Halililo, an offensive guard that we love. When I watch him play, he plays with a certain amount of violence that as a football coach you respect. He plays within the rules, but there's a certain level of violence that he plays with that I think is going to help our team. Andre James from Utah, who I threw on some film of him last night. Obviously I didn't have much time to sleep because I was meeting those guys at 3:15 at the IHOP, but and watched him again, and just his athleticism in space and the way he can move his body for being a close to 300-pounder is pretty amazing. And then the #1 offensive center in the country, Fred Ulu-Perry from St. Louis High School in Honolulu, who's we had him at camp this summer, and he won the award for the Bruin Big Man Award, or whatever we call it. The award he won, in my eyes, was just the scholarship that we offered him that day. He really stood out. So that's a great offensive line group. Defensively, I think we really helped ourselves in the secondary. I think one of the things that we had to do is add size at the corner position. I like a bigger, longer corner. I like to play bump and run. I think in the college game, because they're a little bit more lenient than the NFL game with regards to putting your hands on guys, and the pass interference rule is different than the NFL, lends itself to a little more bump and run. And so bringing in Deshaun Holiday, who's a tremendous, tremendous corner, is something that's really going to help us be able to play we want to play. Bringing in Colin Samuel from Long Beach Poly is going to help us be able to play the way we want to play. Bringing in Octavius Spencer, who's a guy that maybe fits along the lines of I'm talking about
Mossy.
Thank you, David. Mossy, a guy that can do it on both sides of the ball and has that athletic arrogance that you love. I didn't even really realize he was such a good receiver until I saw him play the other day on film. I was like, goodness sakes, this guy can do it on both sides of the ball. Nathan Metters, when you watch his quarterback film, I called Noel last week after I watched it with Nate at his home visit. I said, we need to put in a Wildcat package for this guy. He's really a special talent at running back. I think sometimes that took away from his ability to shine as a defensive back, but his athleticism just jumps off the chart at you. And then we're really excited about Will Lockett out of Texas. Will gives us that physical style of play that we desire. Our linebacking group, I can talk about two of them. Keyshawn Lucier South, 5-star guy out of Orange Lutheran, who's we've been building a relationship with Keyshawn and his family for a long, long time, and it culminated today when he signed that national letter of intent. I had the opportunity to go watch him play basketball last Wednesday night, and this is a 6'5", 220-pound guy right now during basketball season that moved so artfully. It was incredible to watch. A couple of dunks, just really an athletic guy. I think that he brings that presence off the edge that you have to have in your pass rush if you want to be successful in the Pac-12 style of football. And then Joshua Woods, this kid just turned 17 the other day. And I think that if he had been allowed to play his junior year, he would have been one of, if not the top 2 or 3 ranked linebackers in the country. I think he's got that much ability. He's very, very young. He's also got a weighted 4.3 GPA. So his academics are equally as important to him as being a great football player. So we're excited about him. And as I said, I'm not disappointed in Wade. I'm excited about Rick Wade. I think that he gives us length. He comes from a winning program. He's excited to be a Bruin. He's going to grow into that body and become, a big, good-looking kid. And we're really excited to have him added to our defensive line group. But that being said, that is the area right now that would concern me, and I'm sure concerns everybody out there listening. So I'm sure I've answered all you. I hope I've answered all you. I don't know what else I could say. My goal was to talk long enough that you guys all quit, but I'm sure that right there, my man Chris is going to have a great question for me. So anyway.
Do you expect to add anyone else to this class at this point?
I hope so. I hope so. I'm obviously not allowed to talk about those who have not yet sent their NLIs in, but I'm confident, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to talk about some more players down the line.
A year ago, you guys had a little tougher day on signing day. Did you learn something from that helped this year, or was it just kind of how things fell that it went better?
I think it's how things fell. There'll be people out there, I've heard the rumors where they stopped recruiting in the summer. Let me tell you something, okay? We didn't recruit any different this year than we did last year in the summer, okay? I mean, things happen because they're supposed to happen that way. Relationships come together because they're supposed to, or they don't because they're not supposed to. And last year, I thought it was a productive recruiting class. It was a smaller class, just like this class is a smaller class. Right now we're at 85. If we sign 20, we're at 85. So that was our goal, is to get there. I don't want to oversign a class and have to shatter a young man's dreams by saying, hey, I'm sorry, you can't play football at UCLA anymore. But this class, I think, Chris, it had a little bit more oomph because on national TV, guys were pulling out UCLA hats. And I'm not going to lie to you, that feels pretty good. When on national TV, there's an Ohio State hat, a UCLA hat, a Michigan hat, and they pick up that beautiful UCLA hat and put it on. It feels pretty good.
The first year you were here, I mean, there was such a need everywhere.
Yeah.
Has that changed in the recruiting as you've gone along, where you can be more focused on certain spots, or is it still just the same approach?
I think to a certain extent you can focus a little bit more, and I think that's because we know our team better. But there's always variables that you can't foresee. Guys get hurt. Other things transpire that change the dynamics of your team. But we are, like I said, we're going to try to be as selective as we can and be as rigid as we can in bringing players in that fit our profile, both as character, personal character guys, football character guys, and then level of ability. And we're at a place now because of some of the success that we've had on the field where we're able to draw the attention of, I think, a broader and more talented base of players.
Maybe not in respect to any specific recruit, but have you given Coach Ulbrich any kind of timeline for what you want to have a decision by?
We haven't got there yet. Today was so busy. Jeff and I are incredibly close, as everybody knows, and I don't want to see him leave. But he's a man, and he has to do what's right for him and his family. I hope, like I said, that he stays here, and I'm going to fight to keep him here. But I'm not ready to put that pressure on him yet. The fact that he has been in contact with the recruits, to me, is the right way to handle it, and he's handled it the right way, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Coach, how much of a distraction to the bottom line of getting that recruit could this timing be, though, with the Ulbrich situation?
I don't know that I can even talk about that.
No.
I could talk in general.
Yeah, in general.
It's never a good time to lose a good football coach and a good man, a really good man. But what you learn in this business is very fluid. Very, very fluid. And when you've got good people, which we have here, we have very, very good people. There's going to be people that come and try to get them from you, and it's a compliment in a way. I didn't tell Dan that. I told Dan to quit pilfering my guys, but that's the business in the world we live in.
Was there some concern that when you did tell those recruits that maybe some of these guys would decide not to sign? Just given
No, because really the process was kind of down the road before it became really a topic. And the timing of it was such that, you know, when it did become something that became, you know, maybe a little more real than just a concept, or a guy calling me and say, I want to talk to one of your guys, then, you know, I think Jeff did the right thing, and he reached out to these kids. And I think Jeff will be the first guy to tell you that it's not about the coaches here, and that's one of the great things, is that our players play for each other. They're truly a brotherhood. They play for this university and the student body. They understand the importance of the opportunity to get an education at UCLA, and the networking that will provide, and the future that it will provide for them and their families and the generations of their families. And so we don't want to make it about one coach, because a coach can leave, but we want to create a culture where kids want to come into this culture, and I think that's what we're seeing happen.
Did you ask Dan that he had this wait a couple days?
Well, yeah, of course I did. But, you know, just like every coach, there's friendship and there's business, and you know, he's got to do what he's got to do to have success with, you know, what he's trying to build at Atlanta. And I understand. I've been this way, you know, a long time, and I understand. It doesn't mean I'm happy about it, but I understand.
From the beginning to now, since you've been here, how much do you feel the difference of maybe not ease of recruiting, but the success of the program? You feel it now within that process?
Recruiting is a gut grind. I mean, it's not easy. It's hard. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. It is hard. I mean, it's demanding. And like I mentioned earlier, we have so many people that are involved with it, and it takes everybody with the same level of commitment to get it done. But, you know, having national exposure, having success, those are certainly things that open eyes of good football players. You know, if it's the right type of kid, the kind of kid that UCLA wants, then they're interested in football and they're interested in education. They want that balance. They're interested in the social aspect. You know, and we're looking for those balanced kids, and certainly want to be great football players. But I just think winning provides you a larger platform to expose your brand to the country.
How different was the mood in the war room?
The war room?
Or wherever you guys were
We were at the IHOP.
Were you at the IHOP?
No.
Thank you.
The war room suite at the IHOP.
Yeah. How different was the mood than it was last year? I know last year you said it wasn't necessarily very fun throughout the whole process.
No, it wasn't.
It's a little more fun this year?
Yeah, it was, but you know, there's always triumphs and there's always disappointments. You know, there's guys that you think you're going to get, and they slip somewhere else for whatever reason. You know, and then there's guys you don't think you're going to get, and you get them, and you know, you're excited. So there's just an ebb and a flow to the whole. I mean, it's excruciating. The whole I mean, the last couple days. I mean, it's just been excruciating. I mean, yeah, I'm sure I'm overdoing it. I mean, this isn't life and death, okay? But in a professional environment, it's excruciating. You know, that's why I'm getting gray. So
we've got time for about two
Jim,
more.
Obviously, you have Rosen and Bateman coming in, but do you have any other guys that you're expecting to come in early in spring?
Yes. Matt, am I allowed to talk about that? Guys who we anticipate may come in early?
If they've already signed.
Okay. It looks like Nate Matters will be able to come in early. Josh Woods will be able to come in early. I believe that we're working on Will Lockett maybe coming in early. You probably know better than I do.
Just got you to say.
Well, I'm not smart enough to know all these guys. Let me look here.
That sounds right.
Well, there's one that maybe could, but we don't.
Jim, when you were meeting with recruits and their families, was cost of attendance something that came up
Was
much?
what now?
Cost of attendance, something that came up much at all in this recruiting cycle?
It never
What sort of
came
role
up.
do you expect going forward?
No, it never came up.
Any thoughts on how that might factor into the discussion?
I think it'll have zero impact on recruiting.
Does it raise the profile of the program to have pulled guys from all over the country this year?
It does. It absolutely does, because now all of a sudden, people in different parts of the country that are connected to those young men, you know, either personally or just through association, start watching more UCLA football. But it also makes it hard. You know, it's hard to recruit the whole country. But I think that, you know, I wrote it down here. Well, I didn't write it down. I thought I wrote it down. I think we signed 19 or 20 players from, I think, 8 different states.